Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. If you don't know who we are, I'm Sandra. This is Mom. We're Millennial and Mom. If you do know who we are, hey, welcome back. Happy that you're here. But we're gonna skip all the pleasantries.
Yeah, it wasn't pleasant this time. Normally you slow down, but okay.
We're skipping the pleasantries for this moment because we just want to go into Married at First Sight season 14, episode 6. What's it called again?
It's called The Dark Side of the Honeymoon.
No, it wasn't. This is what it was called. This is what we heard all episode. That's what it should have been called. Because sis, Alyssa, she just been doing way too much. But we're going to get into that. I want to know, for Mom, who do you want to start off with first?
Well, it's not who we're going to start with. We're just going to start just as a whole because there's a couple or two that didn't really do too much or we didn't hear from. But the couples we did hear from, Mark and Lindsay, it appears that, they made up because now it's the next morning, the final day of the honeymoon. They made up. They're lovey-dovey. Mark decides to order breakfast. I'm thinking you kind of got to order breakfast anyway because you're probably hungry. But that's neither here nor there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, order breakfast and they're talking and he's kind of in his way apologizing to Lindsay and she accepts it and they're having a conversation about church, like, because he wants to pray over the food. And once he finished praying over the food, it's like, so, we have kids, would you want them to go to church? She's like, yeah, because she grew up a Greek Orthodox and she was in church like every Saturday or Sunday, I believe. Mm-hmm. She's like, when they're young, she wants them to go to church full time. But when they get older to make the decision, then, they can decide where they want to continue to go. And then they got in a conversation on how many kids you want. So Lindsay has a thing with odd numbers. She's like either 2 or 4, but not like 3.
That's not an odd number. 2 and 4 is not an odd number.
She doesn't like it, so she doesn't want 3. I said 2 or 4, not 3. I'm thinking, like, what if they have twins? Because you start off with, let's say you have a single birth the first time, and then your next set is twin. Then that's 3. What you gonna do? Keep trying, but anyway.
They're not going to make it that long to even get that, so that's not even to worry about.
Well, you never know. So now let's move to Katina and Olajuwon, as you would say, a.k.a. Isaac.
Sir Isaac.
Now,
well, see, I want to know from you, what is your distinguishing factors from who you think he is of Isaac and who you think he is of Olajuwon, and which one do you prefer?
Don't put me on the spot like that. I don't prefer any, but if I have to prefer, I would say Olajuwon, because Olajuwon is trying to become the man he feels he's becoming, marriage, settle down, stuff like that, versus Isaac, who's still partying and doing the things that Isaac did. But during their date, they go on horseback riding, and Katina has never ridden a horse, and Olajuwon has, and she's kind of scared, she's apprehensive, and I can get it. I get it, because you know why? Horses can be scary for some people. They're tall, they're muscular, and you just, they could just be intimidating. Have you ever rode a horse before? I think you have.
I have.
How'd you?
I was scared the first time. But I was 10, so.
Well, they're, while they're learning how to ride and the command stuff like that, Olajuwon's like, you know what? You just need to come on. Because if the horse is going to throw you, would have thrown you by now. And I'm like, see that right there? That's when he's becoming too pushy and asserting his, kind of like his dominance over her, like telling her what it is that she needs to do, when and how. And in Confessionals, Katina was kind of like, the younger me, but she said this before, would have like left or slapped him or cried or something, she said. And I get that, because just like in the gym episode last week, he was like pushy. You can't always push your agenda on somebody.
You weren't feeling his pep talk?
I wasn't.
He was being very pushy, but I think that's just who he is.
I do believe that's part of his personality. We've seen it 2 weeks in a row. So now let's move on to Steve and Noy. Now, Steve is the adventurous type. He likes the outdoorsy stuff, swimming, travel. Oh, no, she said she doesn't camp. She don't do none of that. She don't even glamp. Remember I explained what glamping was? She don't do none of that. It's going to be inside. But she was a good sport about it because, they're on a retreat, they're on an island, and there's some type of, like, lagoon, water area that's kind of, like, secluded. And this is right up Steve's alley. It's the water, he's outside. That's part of his adventurous nature. Versus Noy, she's like, I don't know. So he kind of has to talk her into it. And when she does get into the water area, she's having a good time. But at the end, like a little fish was nibbling her feet.
But that could be a free pedicure.
You know what? They do have those fish that eat the calluses off your feet, but that's not what you're thinking about on vacation.
I would have.
Or your honeymoon.
I don't know. I just would have went to that place, but whatever.
And then we finally see Michael and Jasmina, but they didn't really have a one-on-one at first. They met up with Katina and Olajuwon. It was like a double date, and they got to talking about how things were going, stuff like that.
That's your favorite phrase to say, how things are going.
But it is how things are going, because that's what they say. I mean, what else can they say? How are things going? What else can you really say? But here's the thing. In Confessionals, Jasmina is still carrying some type of issue or concern from the night before, even things that we haven't seen on camera, because she's saying Michael's attitude and technically his mouth, he yells and carries on.
I'm not saying that he doesn't, but I'm just very interested to hear how his yelling would be.
But
is it as intense as she's trying to make it out to seem? Or is he just going back and forth with her? Because she seems like she likes to have the last word. Especially going back to last week's episode when she was like, oh, I'm sorry you felt that way, as an apology. So I'm going to take her word with a grain of salt on this one.
But here's my thing, too. Michael is the baby of the family, and it's mostly women. So maybe he's used to being baby. So maybe he's, I don't know, reaching out with his words, I guess. He don't know how to control. Kind of like maybe a different level than a Lindsay thing. Like, you don't necessarily have a filter when you're around someone that you're in a relationship with, I'm guessing. But also, Jasmina works with preschoolers. So she's used to saying, I'm sorry you feel that way. Can't you imagine that with preschoolers?
You don't do that to a preschooler. You teach them how to apologize.
You do, but I'm just saying, she has a certain way that she's used to being.
Absolutely not. I teach second grade. I can't imagine me saying to my class, to a student, if I did something or someone had to apologize to somebody, oh, I'm sorry you felt that way. They would look at me so crazy.
They might, but they are in the second grade versus the preschooler. But then again, that's why I'm not a teacher. Then when we see the next scene is Lindsay and Mark again. Now, apparently, Mark's landlord is one of his good friends. She was at his wedding, because Mark's the only child. He doesn't have very many friends. He's got a close-knit circle. Has been calling, blowing up his phone on the honeymoon. And Lindsay's like, she knows she's on a honeymoon. And maybe she's mad because she's got married. Well, a little bit. I'm kind of thinking maybe there was something else maybe going on maybe with the landlord. Maybe she felt a different connection. Because what is it that you couldn't wait till the honeymoon was over, till you knew he was back in town? Well, it turns out Mark's landlord has terminated his lease. He's been evicted. I'm like, on the honeymoon? Like, is that legal?
Hey, it is now.
No, I don't think so. I think there's things you can do about that. You just can't give a notice like that, I guess. I mean, maybe, I don't know. But also, he can no longer have cats. And there's bed bugs. There's a bed bug problem. And Lindsay's like, you know what? I'm a mama bear. Don't even worry about that. Because when we get back to Boston, you get your things and you come live with me. I already have my cats at our new house anyway. So, let them get acclimated to me and we'll send the cats over there. Here's my thing. If you have a bed bug infestation, you're not bringing nothing with you. Because it's an infestation.
But what's he supposed to do with his stuff?
And you got to get rid of it.
Ernie?
Or put it in a bag and use bed bug. They have like foam or something like kind of like a raid thing. And the stuff that you brought on this honeymoon, oh no, we got to get you something else to wear. You got to take all kinds of precautions. But at the same time, I thought that was, and I got to give her just a small prop. I'm going to give Lindsay a small prop later on too. The compassion that she showed for him. She's like, I can't believe it, stuff like that. And I think I kind of would have been that way too. Like, why is she calling? She knows you're out of town. Well, is your honeymoon or not? Like, why is she blowing you up? I mean, you even saw the phone ring at like in the middle of the night. Like, what do you call it? What landlord does that? Now that has got to be illegal. Then we're going to jump to Michael and Jasmina. Now they have their own single date, but at the same time, I'm sorry. I know it's week to week, and I want to see black love win. I want to see love win in general. But I just think their communication issue is going to be a big factor here. And I don't think that just Michael is withdrawn. To me, Jasmina is withdrawn too. Her having relationships that's never been in town. She's dated people who didn't live in town. That says something. Maybe she's not used to someone being with her day to day, or, something like maybe she's more comfortable long distance. So I just think that they're both withdrawn in their own way.
Maybe Jasmina needs someone who's going to pull her out more, because Michael is just really reserved right now. But you never know. It could happen along the way. Still rooting for them, though.
Okay. So, go ahead.
What?
You know what?
This? Your girl?
Please, get out of here. You know what? I just want to say with Alyssa and Chris, who we're going to touch on now, when Pastor Cal said for their tennis date, or tennis meetup, because there weren't no date.
Don't say that.
That the producers are aware of, and the experts are aware of, the ongoing situation, and decided to have them do tennis so they get together and possibly talk. How? Because if you're apprised of the situation, what do you think them going to do tennis is going to do? Because she came with her tennis racket and some flip-flops. Who plays flip-flops?
Who plays flip-flops?
Excuse me. Who plays tennis in their flip-flops? See, I'm just discombobulating myself. Who does that?
Someone who don't want to be there.
Exactly. Now, what do you think about the conversation with Alyssa when she was having it with producers, talking about, I just can't. He's just so aggressive. Like,
oh yeah, and his hand
About?
movements.
Yeah.
I mean, she was doing hand movements too. So either way, that could be aggressive. She's just thinking of any excuse in the book just to say something about him, and then at the same time continue to say this. You don't need to continue to say this if you are a good person. We said that last week. We're saying it again this week. We're gonna have to say it again next week, because anybody who's a good person knows that they're a good person through and through. And Alyssa, you're not a good person. And you might hold on. She might just be a good person with her pet rescue thing, because she'd be rescuing pets, I guess. But on this show, for this moment, for how you are treating this man, if you really don't want to be with him, I don't understand why you just can't say you don't want to be with him. It's really that simple.
It is. And my thing, and she's a serious gaslighter. She's beyond a Karen.
Oh, and before you continue, I'm really tired of the producers butted in.
I was going to say that.
In their conversations, they don't really need to aid anything. I don't want to hear it. I'm over that part.
Right. It is giving her, it's aiding, it's abetting, and it is
what is that word?
It's coddling her.
That's the word.
They're coddling her, because every time he comes by or she's got something to say, she's always like, I'm done. Looks off camera, talks to producers, and they're like, well, why do you think that way? And do you just want to continue? Maybe she needs more time, telling Chris. I'm like, what? She's not here for you. I have never seen any person on this show talk to producers the way she's talked to producers, as if she's on the honeymoon, her vacation with them. You know, I've just never seen that.
And it's being interrupted because she had to go spend time with Christopher.
And exactly. And you know what, too? Like you said, her annoyance with everything, the way he looks,
talks,
eats, breathes,
moves.
What'd she say?
Eye movement.
he's a effing car salesman that sells houses. I'm thinking, okay, at least he has a job.
Could be with Steve,
who don't have a job right now. But the overall issue is Alyssa is giving all these advantages that these other couples aren't getting. She's getting her own room. She's being, she'll do an activity, and after that she walks away. And it's like she has her own true segment of what she's talking about, how she's feeling, and how she's a good person, how I don't want to look bad. If I look effing bad, it's going to be on you. No, sis.
She said she's going to be pissed.
That too. So now everyone's at dinner.
Before you get to that, before you get to the dinner scene, you're missing a few scenes.
Go ahead. That's what you're here for.
One, what do you think about them having a conversation about moving in together?
I don't even know why Chris is even bothering. My thing with Chris, I've said this before in other videos, he needs to get some self-esteem, his own self-worth. Now, it's okay that you in your job, that you host events and you're the instructor, so you're okay with that. But internally, only thing that you're offering is 1% of self for someone else. Or I reverse that, 1% from someone else, and you can give 100. How's that equal? How's that fair to you? Like, that's the best you can do? That's how you feel about yourself?
Because he really wants to be in this process. And he's like, well, maybe if she shows just a little bit. And you can't say you haven't been in this position either, but not with a stranger. But you could. That you're just like looking for that 1% in somebody, and you could just like give it your all. But you know, a no answer is always the answer. Am I talking to myself?
Yeah, because you know what? I've never wanted 1% for somebody. You either gave me all or nothing. Period. But the moving in thing.
The moving in conversation before they had, well, she brought up the conversation when they had the dinner. Because those were two different conversations.
It sure was. You know, she wants to, well, you know, I'm not sure how they parallel, but the thing is, she only wants to do move in first, and then he moves in, and vice versa. And Chris is like, you know what, I'm not trying to do that.
Mm-hmm. But now, we have to get to the conversation that Chris had with Mark and Lindsay, and then Alyssa had with Katina and Jasmina.
Go ahead.
I need you to start that.
Well, when Chris had the conversation with Mark and Lindsay, this is the first time really that any part of the group knew exactly what's going on. They know that they weren't exactly together in the same room, but they didn't know the depths of what was going on. Chris started from the honeymoon, and Lindsay said, you know what? She'll look back on this in 10 years and be like, you know what? I really messed up. I really did.
No, she's not. We said that about Mirla. Mirla don't care neither.
At all.
Well, Alyssa.
And Mark was like, pretty much, you better than me. Because it wouldn't even be me on this honeymoon. But you know what? Chris also spoke to his sister and told her the tea. And Chris's sister's like, yeah, you know, when we met her at brunch, and when we met them at the wedding, you know, her family was saying, and friends were saying, you know, how she goes off the handle and cries about every little thing. And clearly this is what she's done. This is what she's doing. His sister's like, go ahead and cut your losses. Like, you know, be done with it. And I agree. I agree. Now, when Katina and Jasmina met with Alyssa, Katina was much more calming of her, like giving her advice, because she was like, you know, well, maybe you're taking this a little too far. Maybe, you know, you're not really attractive. I mean, just admit it. You just weren't attracted to him from the beginning. And she admitted it then. Versus Jasmina was kind of like looking off to the ocean or to dirt, where she's looking at. She's kind of like you know, like, I'm not getting into this. But the point is, they know
that she's wrong.
It's wrong.
Everybody knows she's wrong. So, you know, she's still saying, we continue now to the dinner scene that you want to get to.
Well, you want to start at the dinner scene? Everyone's sitting down, talking about the honeymoon. How's it going to be when we get back? Is everybody ready to move in? And Noe brings it up. So what about you guys, Chris and Alyssa? How do you think you guys are going to do when you move in together? And Chris was like, I don't know. You know, because we didn't really have a good time during the honeymoon. You know, we're really not together. Pretty much saying, you know, they lived separate excursions and lives, stuff like that. And then Alyssa's like, you know what? I don't know. We didn't really talk about it. I'm like, you know what? She's always passing the buck.
But no, she did say her thing where she...
Yeah, but she had to be prodded to say her thing, though. She didn't say it, like, off top. Just like she didn't last week when she was asked, or even at the honeymoon when they said, why don't you go sit with Chris and tell him what the problem is? She's like, no, I'd just rather sleep on it. She's always putting things off.
So when she was saying that, what she say that she would be at the house a week later?
No, she does the first half, or he'll do the second half, or vice versa, because, you know, she really wants to be with the girls and bond.
Right.
I'm thinking, who you bonding with? Because Lindsay don't like you.
Even if, you know, they're not 100% working out, she still wants to go through the process. Like, sis, this is not married at the first sight. This is married at first sight. You can't pick and choose when you want to do what activity you want to do, because you have to go through the whole process of being a married couple. Not being on the show just to be on the show, because what are you going to do? You can't, if you're not going to be with him, but you're going to be at the house, you can't do the 1 month anniversary you're going to do. You can't do none of the activities. Couples activity, because you're not a couple. You can't talk about the intimacy factor because you're not intimate. You can't do the decision day because you're not together. Like,
I mean, you could list them on and on and on and on. But
I'm literally baffled at this.
But you know what? She's taken this since she didn't get her man. Since it's not, she's not really mad at Chris. That's what she said. She's mad at the producers for not giving her what she wants.
And that's when the producer should have rolled up and be like, "What you say? Excuse me?" That would have been the perfect time, because they always try to mask it and be like, oh yeah, we know what's going on, or get on the Twitter and tweet but they never come on the show. And I get, they can't force people out the relationship. They can't force people out the marriage because that's something that they have to do on their own. But what they can do is do more instead of hopping from show to show to show. That's all we ask.
And you know what? This is also another form of emotional abuse. Now, we've seen it in different forms from different seasons with different couples.
Mm-hmm.
But this is also another form, and you would think that instead of monitoring the situation, they would have had a Zoom call about the situation. But the couples sitting around the dinner table, their faces was like,
she's full of baloney.
And, one person that doesn't get along with her is Lindsay. She's like, Lindsay, don't look like that. She's like, what? I didn't look like anything. And in Confessional, Lindsay was like, I don't have a poker face. And on that, I felt her. So that's another little glimpse I'm going to give. At least she had compassion for the situation where Chris was concerned, like they all did. Because they were all trying to give him encouragement.
They were. But Jasmina and some of the other girls were like, you guys don't have to talk about your problems right here because it's not for everybody.
Which is true.
But at the same time, for Chris, he don't get the answer. For everybody, he don't get an answer one-on-one. He don't get an answer off camera, on camera, from the producers. Nobody got an answer.
That is so wrong.
Like I said, no answer is the answer. And I don't know why she just doesn't want to come forward and say what it is. Oh, yeah, I do, because she want to be in an apartment for a week and do the things. Like, is she homeless?
No, not just that.
Did she get home?
I don't know, but it's not just that. She says she doesn't want to look bad, and for 1,000% for her family and friends to see her in this light. That's why she doesn't want to say anything. But little does she know is the things that she's saying. Mm-hmm. She's clearly never been held accountable for the things that she's saying because this isn't it. So
we saw it on the after show with Keisha last week when she walked off the set.
Exactly. So
this is just her MO, but that's what it is. And that's all we really got for this week's episode. It wasn't really given a lot except for that was pretty much
that part.
Yes. And side note, since the after show already did come out by the time we did are gonna put this out or whatever, Chris did allude to the fact that when they were going to the honeymoon, that they didn't sit next to each other. She had to have a producer in the middle of them. And it's just like, you did all this for what? Just because the producers didn't give you who you wanted? That is so sad.
It is.
Girl, that is so sad.
Sad for real.
Mm-hmm. But let us know what you guys thought about this week's episode in the comments down below. We, like I keep saying, we are definitely going to go live soon. As you see, we still have a new background.
As soon as our new place is ready in the next 10 days, we will be properly set, so don't mind the background.
Yes. Like I said, let us know what you guys thought about this episode down below. Thank you all so much for watching, sticking with us, subscribing to us. Make sure you shout out other people so they can subscribe to us as well. Mom, do you have any final departing comments before we go about this week's episode?
Yes. Go home, Alyssa. That's it.
There it is.
There it is. Thank you all again for watching. And as always, live simply, be grateful.